Hey, welcome, fight fans, to another episode of Before the Ballman Speaks, episode 45, coming to you live after UFC on Fox 20, and Valentina Shevchenko, and an upset victory over Holly Holm, an underwhelming card on paper, and a card that's probably, if we're being honest, lost in the shuffle between UFC 200 and International Fight Week and all that hoopla over in Vegas. Chicago kind of got the short end of the stick. But there were some good fights and honestly a little bit of surprises here and there. So overall, not the worst night of fights, not the most exciting night of fights. Helping me break down this absolutely elite level exhibition of women's mixed martial arts. You know him from the MMA Analysis podcast. Maybe you know him from Odds Breaker. We got Brad Taschuck in the place. Brad, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing very good. Did you bet heavy on this card? I found this card to be kind of a shit show, not a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it was tough. I'm usually the type of guy that likes a lot of dogs, props, that sort of stuff. And
Sure.
there ended up being 5 underdogs that won, but not a lot of them were big. It was a lot of, plus 110, plus 130, that sort of stuff. Actually, some really sharp movements on the dogs leading up to the fights that brought those lines down. But yeah, just not a lot that I ended up liking. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the main event then, because if we're talking about lines that moved, kind of, sharp money that moved, I think Shevchenko, you could probably have bought around 300, maybe 4 or 5 days ago. Is that right? And she closed about 150 or something like that.
Yeah, she closed at 170, I believe.
Okay.
And if you're looking at the line history, I think a week or two ago she was still up at plus 340, plus 335. One came down like a rock and something. I thought Holm was going to be able to get it done, but Shevchenko's timing, she made Holm play the lead in the fight, and that's just not something that Holly Holm's really comfortable doing against another capable striker.
Yeah, that seemed very evident kind of after the second round. Well, really in the third round, for sure. Did you score this round 4-1 with the last 4 rounds going to Shevchenko, just like the judges seemed to?
Yeah, 4-1. Honestly, even if Holly Holm didn't land the little combo with the right hand in the first round, Shevchenko probably wins the first round as well. So she pretty much dominated the fight. Still, her problem is going to be, well, it wasn't a problem here, but her problem seems to be a little bit of inactivity just because of her style. If she could learn to lead a little bit and do it effectively, which I think she can, because of her technical striking and because of the speed that she has, I think she'll be all right, and up that volume a little bit, because obviously she's got good cardio. But yeah, that's the only real thing. Doesn't make her fights overly exciting, doesn't make them, something that I really want to tune in and feel like I have to watch, right?
Yeah, no. Let's rewind for a second and take a step back from this. The UFC broadcast team talked a lot about how this was elite level striking for women's mixed martial arts at 135 pounds. If what we watched tonight was an example of how exciting 135-pound women's MMA can be, there's going to be a ceiling on how exciting, on how popular women's MMA is going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Give me Amanda Nunes over these two all day, and
Please.
What's terrifying about this is Holly Holm is one of the greatest female boxers ever, and she couldn't figure out that her opponent for 25 minutes was timing her jab, her left, everything with a counter right hook. Like, what's going on? Learn how to strike.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's such a high degree of drop-off between the co-main events, the striking that's happening in that event, and then in our main event, it kind of seems foolish, and it almost makes you wonder if maybe there is some credence to people calling for, these less experienced women to not be held to main event status. I know Holly Holm's the woman who beat Ronda Rousey, but let's be honest, it turns out that it didn't take a lot of skills in your toolbox to be the woman to beat Ronda Rousey.
Exactly. So, and that win by Holm and that loss by Rousey keeps looking worse and worse now, with what we've seen over the past 6 months or so.
Right now, the UFC has exchanged, Ronda Rousey, the cash cow, the moneymaker, Then they had Misha Tate for the hottest of second. Their number 2 chick, just a quick one and done. And then you look at Holly Holm, who you think could be kind of marketable. She beat Ronda Rousey. You get a name from that. They don't like her management. They put her on a card like this. It's not supported by any major stars. I mean, we were supposed to have that Rumble Johnson fight with Glover Teixeira, which probably would have drawn some eyeballs, but let's be real. It's not like, big names being added to the card. What's my point with this? I guess what my point is, we started with people who were making this company money, and now the 135-pound women's division is in the toilet. There's not a dollar to be made from Valentina Shevchenko against Amanda Nunes.
The most noteworthy top contender at 135 pounds that actually is coming off a win. I should add that little caveat, because they're gonna throw somebody in there that's coming off a loss in the title fight next, because that's they got to make money. But the most noteworthy person coming off a win is Juliana Pena, because she won tough.
Yeah, definitely. That could be a possible fight, and I think that the UFC is more comfortable with someone like Pena with the title. She just has more of a marketable look, and the UFC kind of knows what to do with a fighter like that.
Speaking of marketable looks,
yeah,
Valentina Shevchenko, when she's in the cage, looks like a dog, but then pictures of her, like
she cleans up well. She cleans up well.
Right?
Good looking lady.
I think the problem is it's the shorts. She's got like the Urkel shorts going on. She's got like
they're too baggy.
Right up here, It's like she's wearing mom jeans, but they're like compression shorts for fighting. I don't get it.
It's like causing the internet to break, what you just did to us. Here's the problem with female sports. You got to go with the straight compression Vale Tudo shorts. Every girl in the octagon wearing those tight shorts, the figure's looking fine. You can't go with the baggy. You can't go with the basketball overs. That's a mistake.
No, that shouldn't even be an option for them.
So you're the UFC. Do you rather the crazy violence and the consistent in-fight excitement of Amanda Nunes, or do you prefer a champion like Valentina Shevchenko, who, while looks super competent in the cage, it's not the most exciting style, but looks super hot?
I think for them, they're going to go with Amanda Nunes, or they prefer Amanda Nunes, because it looks more the part in terms of being a champion than Shevchenko.
Sure.
So I think they're going to go that way, unless you get somebody that's like super, super hot, which I don't think Shevchenko's really going to come across as a champion. But I don't know. That's just me.
They'll put her in an SI body issue, and we'll be singing a different tune in a little bit.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
Yeah, definitely. Let's shift gears here and talk about the co-main event for a little bit. A really good fight, I'd say. Not a great fight, but a good fight, with Edson Barboza taking a 3-round decision victory, unanimous decision victory over Gilbert Melendez. Scores of 30-27 twice and 29-28. I landed on the 29-28 side of it. I had this 19-19 going into the third, and then Edson Barboza just takes up with the leg. What's up?
As you would have it going 19-19 into the third, right?
Listen, guys, this is the way to score MMA. You know this. I don't need to tell that tangent again. Did you disagree with me there? Did you have it straight 3 rounds for Edson?
I had it 30-27. I saw a lot of people scoring the first for Gil, but
sure.
To me, he was being a little bit more active, but Edson was definitely the one doing more damage. It hadn't started to accumulate until in the second round, but even the couple body kicks that he landed, Gilbert Melendez had that baseball bat welt on his stomach even like 3 minutes into the fight. So obviously, you don't really want to score fights by visual damage like that, but Edson Barboza was landing shots. His striking is just absolutely phenomenal. Basically, he is Jose Aldo if Jose Aldo still threw as many kicks as he used to in the WEC.
Yeah, he definitely has that style. Didn't this card have a kind of WEC vibe to it?
No,
yeah, it
sucked way too much.
In WEC would have been more exciting, but like Eddie Wineland had a knockout performance.
Yeah, that's true.
So we
But
had some
I think there's heavyweights and women. That's not WEC. WEC doesn't play that
it's
shit.
a mashup between WEC and Strikeforce.
There you go. Something like that.
Gilbert Miller. Okay, so I'm reaching. Kevin Nicholson at MMA Injury. He asks, whose legs will Edson Barboza brutalize next? Is he more than is he more than 2 or 3 wins away from a title fight? He's only 3-2 in his last 5. What do you think? He wins 2 fights. Could he be 155 pounds? It's a goddamn nightmare to get a title shot. 3 wins at least for a guy like Edson Barboza. He's lost to too many guys in the top.
Well, his last 2 wins, Gilbert Melendez, longtime Strikeforce champ, challenge for the UFC title. Anthony Pettis, former UFC champion. So those are a lot better than your average 2 wins even in the lightweight division. So you've got guys that, Tony Ferguson has gone on his 8-fight winning streak or whatever, but Edson Barboza's wins are better than Tony Ferguson's wins, obviously, except for the fact that Ferguson beat Barboza. So you throw that out the window. But in terms of the overall resume, I think you've got to go Ferguson is first, Barboza is next, and then I think there's some like Russian guy that I'm forgetting about, but he never fights anyway.
Does he fight? Yeah.
I don't think that guy
martial arts on a more than annual basis, then he'd definitely be in talks.
But 1 more win for Barboza. I think he gets the title shot.
Wow, really that close? See, I just don't see it because of timing. When's the next 155-pound title defense? Let's say October, somewhere around that range. It's definitely not going to be Edson for that. So he has to take a fight in between there. And then is he in a position? I don't know, because probably Nurmi's going to be around or someone. He's a victim of poor timing and not the best resume. And I don't care what you say. T. Ferguson gets it. Once you beat the legend of Lando Venata, punch your ticket instantly to a title shot in my book.
That's right. Not many guys can beat a Star Wars character, right? So
absolutely
got that going on for him.
Right.
But yeah, I think maybe if Barboza, if the scared Russian comes back and never fights again, if Barboza fights him, the way he's been shucking guys off of takedown attempts recently, maybe he can create enough distance to break that leg down before Nurmi can get anything really going.
Yeah, definitely. I've always thought that a guy who likes fighting from the outside and isn't scared to kind of make it a very boring, very inactive fight might have a lot of success against Nurmi. Of course, it'd have to be someone super athletic, it being 155 pounds, and having to constantly stay off your back for 3 whole rounds might be a problem. Let's talk about the Predator. Let's talk about my man getting the TKO finish in the first round, 1 minute and 34 seconds. Let's talk about Francis Ngannou. The writing was on the wall. Everyone saw this one coming. I think he closed as like a minus 700 here. Bojan, whatever, dude. Makalovich, poor guy.
See you later. Not in the UFC.
You're just in here for the show. You're here to take a whooping. You're 30 pounds undersized. What do you want from Ngannou? He looked okay, right? But it is what it is.
Did he even land a punch in that flurry that actually knocked the guy down? Like, obviously, he landed some pretty good hammer fists that put him out, but I think he, punched him in the chest, and then Bojan was just like, nah, I'm good. I'm cool. I'm just going to go to my back and see how this goes for me, and it didn't go well, but I don't know. Did Scott Coker take over the UFC offices for a day and book this fight? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, Sean Shelby's getting real lazy. He's like, this French guy, we need a can for him real quick. They couldn't even disguise it. There's some cans to be had still in the UFC heavyweight division. Why didn't Jack May get a call? Huh?
Wasn't Jack May, didn't he fight in Titan recently?
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
He's a main eventer in Titan. Let's be real.
No, he busted his knee again. Some guy checked a kick against him, and he busted his knee all apart.
The Achilles heel of Jack May. Jesus.
Hey, he'd be a world champ if it wasn't for those knees of his.
And if takedowns,
I mean, take everything. If it was a competition of, he's taller than everybody else except Stefan Struve, then he'd be like number 2 guy in the world for sure.
Tallest guy in the Midwest, definitely.
Yeah. So I don't know. Ngannou, he looks good. But I was hoping for this fight to be drawn out, but he didn't do that. So
You
I'm a
bet
little
the over, huh?
disappointed in him. I always bet the over.
Fatty's gonna fatty. That's the good theory.
Yeah,
But in
he's
this
too
case, it's like
brittle.
real big, like, it's sumo fatty against regular fatty, and so sumo fatty just crushed him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did not look into how bad Mihalovic was enough into this fight, so that's my own fault.
This is the high level analysis that you come to the show for. Bigger fatty, out fatty, smaller fatty. That's how you get a minus 700 number.
It's true. Bigger fatty's not even a fatty, too. He's just bricked.
Can I be honest with you about something? This is my favorite fight of the card. This is how broken I am as a person. I just like watching big dudes fight. I find it to be the most entertaining thing. When they get tired, when it gets sloppy, that's when I like it even more.
Yes. Yeah, there's people that have this weird perception that heavyweights are only good when the fight ends in a first round knockout.
No.
And yeah, it's fine. Ngannou got his first round knockout, whatever. It was supposed to happen. Heavyweights are fun when they're like the very last fight that we're going to talk about on the show, where, Dmitry Smolyakov has never fought more than 2 minutes in his life. So he's just dying, gasping for air, with a minute left in the first round. But
that's my favorite move in a heavyweight battle is like the gasp for air. The two hands on the knee, bend over.
The Kimbo Houston Alexander special.
That is, guys. If you've never seen that fight, go get your Fight Pass subscription out and enjoy some pure comedy. That fight ends in a masterpiece. Like people talk about Gilbert Melendez against Diego Sanchez as like great finishes. I give you Houston Alexander against Mr. Kimbo Slice. That was brilliant all the way.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Mr. Slice. Let's talk about the curtain jerker for this Fox portion and the most, maybe, at least in my opinion, entertaining fight of the Fox card. Felice Herring taking a first round submission victory in 1 minute 59-second rear naked choke over Kaylin Curran. Kaylin Curran, Hawaiian chick, tough girl, but just probably doesn't have the talent to be in the UFC. Felice Herring kind of holding on to what's left of her career. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, Felice Herring's going to stick around. She'll be on some main cards, and people will be like, why is Felice Herring on this main cards? And she's sort of in that position, but Kaylin Curran, as Mr. Buffer
wow, okay.
graced us with.
He said Curran?
Kaylin Curran was, I think, his pronunciation.
He wants to be very sensitive to the Muslim audience. I feel.
I guess so. Yeah, you've got the big Muslim audience in Chicago, like Bilal Muhammad, and
guys, it's a sensitive time in our country. We need to, we need to increase the love.
It's all about inclusivity.
That's Mike Goldberg's mantra.
But she has no concept of how to defend positionally with grappling or any submissions. So when that's the case, you're not long for this UFC world.
Yep, once again, the problem kind of with women's mixed martial arts at this stage, and that no one's really all that well-rounded. We're still in maybe early years of UFC where people are still very specialized.
What year would you say we're at?
I'd say we're at year two of mixed martial arts, like UFC, like 15-ish.
Okay. Yeah,
got a couple people dominating because they have like 2 or 3 different disciplines mastered.
Yeah, I was gonna say 97, 98. We're at that sort of stage where somebody with a dominant single skill set can still be dominant.
As long as they have like one more complementary skill set that's mediocre or enough to nullify other people's skills. I mean, look at Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She can basically kickbox and not get taken down, and she has cardio for days. Boom, she's the champ.
Yeah, she's Maurice Smith to Claudia Gadella's Mark Coleman.
Hey, look at that. That's that's the type of shit you bring Brad Taschuck on your show for.
That's right.
All right, so all in all, pretty good showing from Felice Herring, whom I've always given a bunch of shit for sucking at MMA. Looking pretty good out there in the cage, so I'll give her a tip of the cap.
But not looking good in her week of the fight photo where every vein that possibly exists in every human body ever was showing. Yeah.
I see photos like that, and I only see a mental sickness inside of our sport because we make people cut weight like we do before you're about to fight other humans. Like, that shouldn't happen to this girl, you know?
No, nobody should ever look like that in any situation. So
If I woke up and saw that, like, in a woman in a bed next to me, I'd be like, we're calling the hospital right now. It's a problem. You might have a living thing inside of you, like trying to, crawl its way out. She looked like a junkie a little bit, right? With the veins.
Yeah.
It's weird. Weight cuts. That's what's killing this sport, not PEDs, people. All right, let's talk about the Fox Sports 1 preliminary portion of the card. Eddie Wineland turning back the clock. He's a sizable, no, not a sizable dog. He's only like 135-ish.
40, yeah.
Yeah, but still taking a surprise victory over Frankie Saenz. Interesting that the 135-pound division still kind of has these guys floating around in the 15 spots. You know what I mean? Frankie Saenz and Eddie Wineland. When I looked at the rankings next to their names, I was scratching my head.
Yeah, this was actually fairly surprising to me because I thought Frankie Saenz was going to be able to come out, really push forward, make Eddie Wineland uncomfortable, get him up against the cage, clinch him, dirty box him, all that sort of fun stuff. Wineland's always had really good takedown defense, so I didn't see a lot of takedowns coming for Saenz, but he just wasn't able to get that close at any point. And Eddie Wineland, with his irregular movements and good timing, he's still obviously got that. Was able to make him pay as Saenz very ineffective striking whiffed on time after time in that fight. So it was nice to see. Eddie Wineland's always been a pretty fun guy to watch, and it was good to see him be able to pull the trigger again because the performance against Brian Caraway was sad.
Yeah, very sad. And I'd been one of these people advocating that maybe time had passed Eddie Wineland by and it was time to, say goodbye and hang up the gloves. Retracting that statement because I saw a fighter out there who was moving his head very well. A guy who was getting off shots and seeing openings and making good decisions and high IQ moves, and maybe he's settling into a veteran's role and he won't be contending for the titles and won't be in the top 10, but he can sure turn it on and be a gatekeeper kind of into the top 15, at least for a next 2-3 fight stretch. I could see him being very competitive in fights with people ranked around that 15 number.
Yeah, I'd like to see him continue doing that. My concern with Wineland is, when you're getting up, he's only 32, but still he's been around the game for a long time. As you see these
135 pounds, that's very old for 100.
Exactly, yeah. When you see these bantamweights and flyweights start to get up to that age, I've been betting against Brad Pickett for a while because of his age. Same thing with Neil Seery. You look at those sorts of fighters and the body does not hold up at that size the same way it does, at heavyweight, where the average age of the top 10 of the division is like 40 anyways.
Yeah, definitely. It can be a problem not only with the chin and the durability and keeping up with the athleticism of the younger guys, but also in the weight cut. That's most guys at 35 are cutting 25 pounds and up, so that can be harder and harder to do once you hit that 35 plus number. We had 4 fights after or before that preceded the Eddie Wineland third round TKO victory that were abominable. So we're going to go through these rapid fire. These all ranked a D or below on my letter grading system here. Darren Elkins gets a unanimous decision victory over Godfredo Pepe. Do you have anything to say for this Brazilian fool who got taken off of his juice, ripped out of his native land, and brought up to the Great White North to be ground the fuck out of by Mr. Darren Elkins?
Yeah, he still looked like Mr. Magma to me. Had a couple fun moments in the first round.
Yeah, he goes for some shit, right?
Yeah, he's gonna do some stuff in there, and then he's also gonna pull.
He's gonna do some stuff in there,
but he's also gonna pull guard about 17 times in the last 10 minutes of the fight.
The first is UFC debut. He pulled guard like 8 times in that fight to not win the TUF Championship. That's unforgivable. Never gonna live it down. Moving on, Karuma Usman. He beat Alexander Yakovlev in the worst fight of the night, unanimous decision, 30-25 by 3 people, just tossing around the 10-8s now. We're making up for
a point deduction there too.
Oh yeah. But okay, which is even crazier. Maybe the highlight of this fight was that there was a point deduction for a cage grab. What the fuck's happening in MMA, Brad?
Yeah, there was a point deduction for the first one, and then not for the 37 that followed, right?
You can't take 2 points off cage grabs. You basically bought all the cage grabs for the rest of the fight once you get 1 point deduction.
You should take the point for the first one, and then they should electrify the fence after that.
You and the electric fence. It's a Ren and Stimpy idea that's going to come true someday.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I've
Don't
got
piss on the electric fence.
The press conference on here, and it looks like they're holding it in the basement of the United Center or whatever building they're in. It's a tiny little dingy room in Chicago.
It was not press.
They're all probably going to get shot.
John Morgan and 2 other people are there.
Yeah, Dana White isn't even there. It's Dave Scholler hosting it.
Yeah, Dana White. He didn't even show up to Chicago probably. He saw how many shootings there were this weekend and decided against it.
Peace.
Yeah. Once the temperature gets over 90 degrees, they project like 7 shootings, so you might want to duck out of Chicago.
Looking for a fighter that can't grapple.
Definitely. All right, moving on in the patch of awful fights. Michel Pereira, Mr. Brazil, he was the favorite, and everyone could see why. Apparently this J.C. Cottrell dude can't wrestle. But he seemed like a grinder, so, we had some grinding. Some Brazilian grinding. Everyone loves a good Brazilian grind.
Tractor seems like a really strong dude. If I had a farm,
he's the tractor.
I would want him to work on my farm.
He could definitely drag a plow. If a horse was injured or something,
he'd just pick him up and carry him wherever he needs to go. Toss hay bales, the highest reaches of your barn. He just seems like that guy.
He should change his name to Brazilian Lenny. Nice, bad jokes. It's that time of night, guys. Okay. Let's talk about this Fight Pass prelim portion of the card. Another terrible fight with Alex Cowboy, Brazilian Cowboy Oliveira. I expected some highlights from this dude. Cowboy. I forgot that you were my guest. I left you that one. He just decided to grind out Mr. Moonboy Mutasari. Boring as hell. I wanted action here. I thought that he was a Muay Thai specialist. He looked like a great, kicker and striker against Cowboy Cerrone, and then I see this awful performance against Moonboy. You got to be a little disappointed here, Brad.
Honestly, disappointed but not surprised. When he's successful, it's because he's grappling guys that can't grapple. When he's unsuccessful, he's getting out-grappled by Cowboy Cerrone and those sorts of guys. So, yeah, this is just his game. He's good enough to beat guys at what they're bad at, and that's what Cowboy is all about.
Boom. And Moonboy, you shouldn't be a 170-pounder. You're a 155-pounder. Get it straight on that weight cut. Sorry, there's no IVs, but you need to do it, buddy. Before that, we had a really good fight. In my opinion, the fight of the night. Well, the cat's out of the bag there. Between Jason Knight and Jim Allers. Split decision victory for Jason Knight, 29-28 on 2 scorecards, and 1 judge scored it for Jim Allers. Who did you score this fight for, Brad?
I had a bet on Jim Allers, and I scored it for Jason Knight. That was a terrible scorecard for Jim Allers. Yeah,
I could kind of see it. The second and the third might make some sense.
Yeah,
the striking advantage in the second was really, really distinct, though. I think you have to ignore that late takedown.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you can make the case, but it's a bad case.
There you go.
Yeah, it was good fights. On a regular card, I don't think this would be fight of the night or anything like that. But here it was the the one thing that wasn't a turd in the punch bowl.
There you go. But if you're a young 145-pound fighter, there's just a lot. There's just steam finally building in this division, but you're lost. If you're Jason Knight, you're a fucking lost in the shuffle in a division ruled by a guy who doesn't even defend his belt in the division. How do you make a statement? This is a good way to do it as a young fighter. Talk a lot of shit in the cage, get into a stand-up war, be a striker, be an aggressive dude, get into a bloody slugfest. And thankfully for you that it went your way. Bad judging. You could have been definitely a victim of some bad judging there. But Jason Knight, maybe a guy to look forward to. He's a young dude, 24 years of age. Or do you see some sort of ceiling on this guy?
I definitely see a ceiling. I don't think he's improved that much from his debut fight with Tetsuya Kawajiri. I think that the big thing for him is he was a lot smarter about his approach to this fight. He knew that Jim Allers doesn't react the greatest to getting hit, so he just put a lot of pressure on him. It seemed to really stop Allers from going for takedowns too, which is the reason that I was really concerned about Knight in this fight, is because he gets taken down and then he locks up mission control, and you hear Joe Rogan scream about what a bad spot it is for his opponent, even though he's absolutely doing nothing. But I thought he would, he might lose a decision by just sitting on the bottom, locking up mission to control and doing nothing. So luckily he stood back up when he got taken down. So we saw some improvement from him in that regard. And the pressure striking on the feet was all right.
Yeah, and I would say one time when you grabbed mission control, he did turn him. He threatened a little bit with...
Oh my God, rubber guard almost worked for like 3 seconds.
Okay. Still a very good fight. I think Jim Allers is probably done with the UFC, though, right?
I agree. He's going to go back to Cage Warriors and out-wrestle some British dudes.
Yeah, that's actually a good living if you can get it, Jim Allers. Don't knock it, man. Take the pounds. And
hey, he was the former Cage Warriors featherweight champion, so
the Clay
go back and do you.
The Clay Guida of Cage Warriors. The curtain jerker tonight. Louis, whatever way you wanna be about it. Enrique, he fought Dmitry Smokov, who couldn't be Russian enough this fight and got choked out in the second round, 3 minutes and 58 seconds. And it happened.
Yeah, it did. You know what? It happened for more than 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
Once again, a heavyweight over cashes for Mr. Brad Taschuck. All right, let's put a bow on the card, man. What was your? We're playing Joe Silva. What was your fight of the night? Oh no, your 2 performances of the night.
2 performances of the night. One is going to be Eddie Wineland. Mm-hmm. The other one is going to be Felice Herrig, I guess.
Ooh, Felice Herrig getting some sweet bonus money. I'm going to give mine to Eddie Wineland as well. There's no doubt that was a performance of the night there. And I'm also giving one to the Predator, Mr. Francis Ngannou.
You can't give him that gift of the fight and then give him a performance bonus after it.
Come on. No, this is money well spent, man. I don't know. That's a real good point. But we need these heavyweight contenders. He's our only hope. You know what I mean? Right now he's our only hope. So you feed him an extra 50 G's. He feels special. He gets to train full time maybe, and that'll be fun. Fight of the night for you tonight.
Fight of the night. You know what? I'll go opposite of your pick because I know what you're going to go with, and I'm going to say Barbosa Melendez. You had a couple moments where Melendez actually came back, landed some shots, looked like he might have Barbosa in a little bit of trouble. Barbosa worked through it and just brutalized those legs and body. So I thought that was an enjoyable fight, fought at a high level.
Yeah, definitely. I think that if you're thinking about how the UFC would pay out these fight of the night bonuses, it probably will go to Edson Barboza and Gilbert Melendez. But I like looking down the card a little bit. The guys who need it, goddammit, you know what it is. I'm giving it to Jim. I'm giving it to Jason Knight. I think a kid kind of, made a good case for himself and showed a little bit of what you could do to kind of get your name out there, at least amongst the hardcores on Fight Pass when you're down there in the basement. If you want to make some sort of splash and have any kind of buzz off your fight, it's a lot of fights between you and the end of the night. You got to do something big, and you got to talk some shit and be a little bit of a showman. And I think that Jason Knight did it, and Jim can get 50 G's in his pocket with his pink slip.
And kicking the ass on the way out the door, right?
It's like a security deposit for your place in London, because you're going to need a European address, man.
There you go.
Cage Warriors is not paying for international travel, my good man. Get Yeah, I'd suggest a roommate too. London rent is expensive, bro. That petite ain't gonna last forever. The pound is
Yeah,
weak right now.
maybe
Um,
I'll have to live out in the outskirts. I don't know the suburbs of London, but I'm sure there's some shitty
there's
place out there
probably
that's
some
cheap.
beautiful suburbs of London. You know, I'm sure there's some lovely places available.
Yeah.
Um, what are you gonna grade the whole thing? Give it a letter A to F. We're Americans, so we play F. There's no like E's.
Who uses E's?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
a
I thought that
thing?
was a Canadian thing.
Has somebody on the show used an E to grade a card before?
No, but I thought someone wanted to once.
That was probably Nick. It may be
Well,
in the grading system that they have for like 12-year-olds now. They use like A through Z to
they
make them
don't.
feel better.
Yeah, they don't want to hurt feelings by using F. They don't want them to feel like failures.
I'm gonna give this a D plus.
Wow! Holy shit, that's a bad grade. There was, yeah, okay, I'll accept that. There was a long spree of very bad fights, and in the middle.
There's a
of
whole
fight.
bunch of fights that I've already forgotten about. Like,
There's a bunch of fights that instantly after watching them, I had my memory erased of what happened. If I didn't
hold
have,
on, wait, 1 second.
yeah.
Yakovlev's flow blows. We all know King rules the game. Keep grabbing the fence.
I forgot. Yeah, haikus to remind you of fights that you've already forgotten about.
There you go.
There it is. Very high level shit there. Thank you for your haikus, people. You're great. Yeah, if it wasn't for the sheet of paper, I would definitely have not remembered most of those fights in the middle. I'm going to give this fight a slightly better grade because I thought that it was interesting, at least towards the end, and that Gilbert Melendez fight was very entertaining. And you know I love me some Predator, so I'll give it a C+.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Brad, for being my guest this evening. You kept kind of the misogyny to a very low level or a non-existent level, so I'm super
You know
proud
what?
of you.
They didn't give me a lot of ammunition this card. So the one fight was over real quick, and the other fight I already talked about how
The prime example of something that it was so there's chock full of goodness to make fun of, and it ended up being a decent fight.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Next time I'll have to do better, and they'll have to do worse.
Women's MMA, you've been put on notice by Before the Bowman Speaks. Tell us what people can read about what you write and hear about what you speak.
MMA Analysis is where you can hear my words about fights and all of the fantastic fighter nicknames I come up with. And MMA Oddsbreaker, always doing the opening odds articles. I'm going to be doing a little bit more now that I'm settled in my new place in terms of fighter profiles and card previews, stuff like that too. So check those things out. And you can follow me, Brad Taschuck, on Twitter. It's actually at Brad Taschuck.
It should be at Brad Taschuck.
I should change that.
It's brilliant. That's definitely not taken either.
No.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks everyone who watches the show or listens to the podcast later, especially the people who stay up late to watch it live. We always appreciate it. And the people or person who stayed till the end today, thank you very much, good sir. And that's it. Signing off before the Bald Man Speaks from UFC on Fox 20. Peace.